There's been a lot of hype surrounding Aaron Pico's UFC debut next Saturday against Lerone Murphy. Is it justified? That's what we're going to talk about in today's video. My name is James Lynch. So the latest bit of hype material for Aaron Pico has come in the form of Henry Cejudo, the former champion, on his pound for pound show with Kamaru Usman, talking about the Lerone Murphy and Aaron Pico fight. We're going to listen to what he has to say here, and then I'm going to show you some other comments regarding Pico. A lot of people excited about his big debut in Chicago next Saturday for UFC 319. So let's get into what Cejudo has to say here in this clip.
The winner of this fight is going to fight Alexander Volkanovski, and I also feel like the winner of this fight is going to become our next champion, dude. All due respect to Volk.
Whoa.
Yeah, all due respect to him, but dude, these young guns, Lerone Murphy is fighting Aaron Pico. Like, Aaron Pico is in his prime, bro. Power, wrestling. He's been a man child since he was a kid, already competing at the highest levels while in high school, beating world champions. And then Lerone Murphy, what he's been able to do to a lot of these fighters, man, undefeated, very tricky, brings in a lot of like the wrestling, and he's different. He's like a Marab, like you just they're pretty unpredictable. And how is it that he's able to use that wrestling? So I'm excited for this co-main event. I think this co-main event is the most competitive fight, in my opinion, this whole fight card.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that last part about this being maybe the most competitive fight on the card. And good to see Cejudo giving Lerone Murphy some credit, because I see a lot of people not doing that. I think it's going to be a tough fight for both guys. But a couple things that Cejudo said in here. So first and foremost, he talks about, Pico being in his prime, and I don't disagree with that. Pico's 28 years old. There is a lot of intrigue and hype about him coming into the UFC, and I think it's justified. I think it's exciting to see Pico come over from Bellator. He's got great, obviously, boxing. He's got great wrestling. There is some intrigue there, but my big issue that I've had with a lot of people when it comes to talking about Aaron Pico, he hasn't really proven anything yet. And he's coming over from Bellator, and we can go through his resume in a second here, but I just don't think the, talk about him, beating Volk and all that, like you're hearing in this clip. And granted, Cejudo's talking about him, both Lerone Murphy and Aaron Pico. But I just, like, right now, I don't see it yet. I don't see it yet with Aaron Pico in terms of what he's been able to do, just because my biggest gripe with Aaron Pico is he has not fought the greatest competition coming into Bellator. In fact, it's worse competition than Patricio Pitbull or Patchy Mix have fought when they came into the UFC, and we saw how both their UFC debuts went. So I think Cejudo's a little bit off base here as far as, this being the next title challenger. Also, why are you not mentioning Movsar Evloev? He's undefeated. I think most people feel like he is the biggest threat to Alexander Volkanovski right now and the featherweight division, so I don't know why he didn't bring him up. They're also all part of the same management group, so it's not like he's, which is interesting. Pico and Evloev and Cejudo are all part of the same management there. Also, Lerone Murphy's not a young gun. Lerone Murphy's actually older. He's 34 years old. So Cejudo's wrong about a few things in this, but the hype with Aaron Pico is something to behold. I've got some other comments I'm going to show you guys here, just with people talking about Pico, because people get upset when I bring up Pico's record. But the facts are the facts, and we'll go through the record in a second. But here's some more comments from people here. Someone saying, big Pico ignorance, maybe the best USA's best wrestler ever, and best wrestler in MMA and boxing, Golden Gloves champ and legendary gas tank. Study the wrestling history. All he needed was fight IQ and planning from Jackson Wink. Best USA wrestler, again, that may be true, but he's got to prove it in MMA. Best wrestler in MMA, I doubt that. And then we've got this guy here saying the winner of Pico Murphy starches Volk worse than Ilya, which, again, like, I don't really think that's going to be the case. I don't think they starch Volk, either of them do. Maybe Pico does, just because he has finishing ability, but definitely not Lerone Murphy. Like, come on, guys. Like, Lerone Murphy has 9 wins by decision. He's got 7 knockouts. His last stoppage win was back in 2021 against Makwan Amirkhani. He has yet to finish a fight since 2021. Murphy's not much of a finisher if you look at it overall. But let's focus on Pico, because that's the topic of this video. This is my big gripe with the Pico believers and the hype, train and all that. And again, I don't think I'm not saying that Pico can't reach championship level, or that he can't even win a UFC title. I think that's possible. I just don't think we can, confidently say that now. His last win was back in February of 2024. So that's another thing going into this fight next week. He's got a huge layoff coming into this fight, has not fought since February. And it's against a guy in Henry Corrales who was 38 years old. And it's not like he's done great since then. He was a plus 360 underdog in that fight. And Corrales was coming off a loss the fight previously against Kai Kamaka. So again, not great opposition there. If you go through some of the wins here, Pedro Carvalho, same thing. James Gonzalez, like if you go look at Carvalho's record after this, again, not great opposition here. He's lost 2 straight fights since then. If you go back to the fight that James Gonzalez, again, older fighter, how old was he in that fight? I think he was 32 at the time, and he's now 35. And James Gonzalez has lost 2 of 3 since then. Like, what's his best win? That's my biggest argument with a lot of these people that talk about how great Pico is. His best win is probably Leandro Higo back in 2018. He did fight Jeremy Kennedy, but that fight was so short. Pico popped his shoulder early in the fight, but it was very competitive. There's Pico fans I see talking about how, oh, he's destroying Jeremy Kennedy. He absolutely wasn't. And, you know, it's interesting. If you actually look for that fight on Bellator's YouTube page, they don't have it up there. They just have the shoulder injury, and they don't even make mention or give credit to Jeremy Kennedy, because that was supposed to be a fight where Pico was going to break through, but obviously he hurt his shoulder. And that's unfortunate. That does count on his record as a loss. It was an injury. Really, Pico's only lost 3 times. But here's the key thing. Look at these losses early in his career. The Zach Freeman loss in his pro debut. Again, super overhyped going into that fight. There was a lot of promise in Bellator with some terrible matchmaking there, giving them Zach Freeman, who had 10 fights. That fight honestly shouldn't have been made. Then he had a couple nice wins since then. Then got knocked out by Henry Corrales in a fight where he was a massive underdog. This was back, he was minus 585, and this was back in 2019. So a little while ago, but still, he was finished there. Then he was finished by Adam Borics the fight after that. The thing that where people are losing me here is Pico has lost 3 times. And I mean, again, the 4th one was more of an injury. It's not like we're talking about some undefeated guy and it's like no one's been able to do anything to him. There is a weakness here, and that is that he can be knocked out. There could be some, you know, a compromised chin here. That's something we haven't looked at. Now, look, he's not going to have to worry about that against Lerone Murphy next Saturday. Murphy, again, he does have knockout power, but we've barely seen it in the UFC. Again, most of his knockouts are outside the UFC, and with Murphy being a little bit older, I doubt he wins by knockout here. But saying that, I think it's a massive step up for Aaron Pico to go from Henry Corrales and James Gonzalez and Pedro Carvalho to Lerone Murphy, because no offense to any of these guys. I've interviewed, I think, most of these guys here. Henry, definitely. Pedro Carvalho as well. These guys aren't anywhere close to top 15 in the featherweight division. So can Pico handle that jump in competition? I worry a little bit. We're hovering, you know, the way people are talking, we're hovering a little bit around Bo Nickel territory. How is this any different? Now, granted, Pico has many more fights than Bo Nickel does. Pico, I would argue, is definitely more talented. He's got the boxing as well. That's not something that Nickel really has. But it's similar in the sense that Bo Nickel, one of the things that we didn't really know too much about was how would he do against better opposition? Because he was, you know, he's starching these guys, right? Like he was starching your Donovan Beards and your Jamie Pickett's and Val Woodburns. But then when he gets that step up against, you know, even the Paul Craig fight, he didn't look that good. And then he gets absolutely destroyed by Reinhard de Ritter, who now we know is a contender in the weight class. I do worry we're kind of going down the same path here, the way people are talking about Pico. And I'll say it again. I'm not saying that Pico can't go fight for a title one day or do great. I'm just saying that you're putting a lot of stock into a guy who is relatively unproven in MMA. That's great. He has all these credentials in wrestling and boxing and all this good stuff, but he's got to prove it in the cage. At the end of the day, he does. And I think Lerone Murphy is not going to be an easy outing. He's undefeated. He's a guy that, again, is, you know, tricky and has fought guys that have power, right? If you're worried about the power thing, he's fought 3 strikers in a row. Now, granted, these are older guys, Barbosa and Emmett especially, but they have knockout wins. I would argue Pico has more knockout power, but it's not like Lerone Murphy's facing guys that, like, you know, it's not like he's just facing like grapplers or wrestlers. And in fact, in the Barbosa fight, and I think in the Ige fight too, he did get rocked a bit. Maybe Pico can finish the job here. But what I'm saying is all these people talking about how, oh, he's going to starch Volk and, you know, he's, you know, the best wrestler. Like, you got to go in there and prove it. And I think Murphy is a great opponent here. The initial fight was going to be Movsar Evoyev. I was very confident that Evoyev was going to win that fight. This fight, I don't know. I think it's much closer now between, you know, Lerone Murphy and Aaron Pico, and I do see Pico as the favorite. I get it because of the hype there, but I think as far as an underdog, Lerone Murphy absolutely has a chance to win this fight. So I'll talk more about this on my UFC preview this week, but I'll say it. The hype is out of control here on Aaron Pico. It's not that I don't, it's not like I don't people sort of think that I don't like Pico or that I'm like, you know, getting down on him. I want Pico to succeed. I think it's great. I just think that guys like Cejudo here that are saying he's going to, you know, beat Volk and all this, like, we just haven't seen that yet in MMA. So I think we got to slow the brakes down a little bit on Aaron Pico. Let's see how the debut goes. And if we've not learned anything from fighters coming over from Bellator, it sometimes doesn't work out. Again, Pitbull lost his debut. I know Pitbull beat it Danny Gay after. Patchy Mix had a disappointing debut. Similar opponent in Mario Batista, who's, again, not a really flashy guy, but a guy that can get wins. I think Pico, he's going to be in for a tough outing. Whether he wins or not, that remains to be seen. But I think we've got to slow the brakes down a little bit on Aaron Pico just because we haven't seen that proof yet of him being a high-level fighter in MMA. Again, he's getting stoppage wins, but the opposition is just Not great at all. Not even close to what you're seeing in the top 15 in the UFC. So just wanted to do a quick video on this because I do think things are getting a little bit out of control with Aaron Pico. I've seen some creators out there talking about how he's the, going to be the powerhouse in the weight class. That may happen, but I think it's too early to say that now. He goes out there and knocks out Lerone Murphy in the first round. We can start having those conversations. But right now, I think it's way too early to be talking about Aaron Pico as a future champion in the UFC. He's got a lot more to prove, in my opinion. So I want to know what you guys think in the comment section below. What are you thinking about this fight with Lerone Murphy? We'll get more into it this week on the preview show, but I think it's going to be a tough outing. I think this fight could potentially go the distance as well. So I'll give you my pick on Monday, but I don't think it's going to be some easy fight for Aaron Pico. I think Lerone Murphy is undefeated for a reason. He's a good tactician, and yes, he's a little bit older, but Murphy's been more active. There's a lot of things to like about Murphy in this fight. Follow me on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, @Lynch on Sports. My name is James Lynch. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.